Chapter 21. Commander-in-Chief. We'd been wrong. Not about everything. There was a conspiracy, and it was made up of all the number 2 people in the school. But the person at the center wasn't Paige. It was Tessa. Beloved Tessa, popular Tessa, President Tessa. She hadn't said it yet, but she didn't have to. The way she was looking at me was enough, not to mention her having Santiago snatch my phone and block me from leaving. I glanced over at him. He'd been the one to bust Choi. Monty had made it sound like a coincidence. Now it was looking more like a setup. I quickly ran through options in my head. I could run, but I wouldn't get too far without Santiago grabbing me. Clearly, he was willing to get physical enough to snatch things from me. Would he take it further? On the other hand, I didn't even know what Tessa wanted. She couldn't keep me here forever. Maybe I could let her talk until I could figure something out, or until the rest of the team came to find me. They'd finish with Paige soon enough and wonder where I was. I just had to hold on until then. Plan in place, I turned my full attention to Tessa. So, BPS, that's you. The whole time it's been you. I didn't phrase it like a question, and I didn't lead up to it. There was no point. We both knew what was going on. Not just me, she said. I know you've been playing detective. It was my vision, but it's not just me. Athletes, artists, kids from the entire school are working together to make things more fair. Fair? Tessa, you sabotaged the spelling bee. You rigged an art competition. You were gonna cause a ladybug apocalypse. How is that fair? She raised an eyebrow. You break into lockers, you get exams canceled. How is that fair? I thought I'd made my peace with what we did, but I still felt a twinge of defensiveness. That's different. Is it? Yes, we're helping people. You weren't here last year, but you're a smart kid. I'm sure you already know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Politics aren't about competence. They're about popularity. I knew that. I think most regular kids knew that too. Even if the candidates talked about their platforms and campaigns and all the good they wanted to do, at the end of the day, it basically always came down to who was more popular. We shouldn't have won, Tessa said. Regina and me. Harry was a better speaker. He had a better platform. He was a nicer person. But Regina was more popular, so she got what she wanted. Just like always. Maybe she was just a better candidate. Her eyes narrowed. I know she wasn't, because I know her, and I know how she always gets her way. So this is personal. Just because I know something personally doesn't mean it's personal. She took a breath. And besides, it's not about her. She's not even here anymore. The second part was true, but I didn't believe the first. Whatever else this was about, this was definitely about Tessa's feelings towards her sister. Once Regina was gone, I could finally run on my own, she continued. Finally do some good. Finally have some control. Do you remember what my current big initiative is? The club surveys. I realized, thinking back to the conversation, she was literally going club to club gathering information about who was disgruntled enough to join her little operation. It was right in my face, and I'd missed it. The first club I shadowed was a new one, the online gaming club. They really had to fight to get that approved. And by they, I mean Lane Porter. He spent his entire 6th grade year working to get that off the ground. He met with the principal. There was a petition. He spearheaded the whole thing. They were having elections when I met with them. You think he'd be a shoo-in for president, right? I mean, I kind of doubt you'd be telling me this story otherwise. She made a sound in the back of her throat. He brought the entire club into existence with a year's worth of work, and they were going to elect Robert Owens, student body president, because he said his rich dad would buy them all laptops if they did. Blatant bribery. Completely against the rules, but no one cared. Lane didn't even think it was worth trying to report it. No one was going to do anything about it. And do you know what you are if you see something bad happening and let it happen? A part of the problem. They left me in a room alone with the ballots for a few minutes. So I lost some. The right person won. My ears pricked at that. The election. She'd already rigged one, or fixed it if you used her logic. All the more reason she'd do it again. But the school didn't use paper ballots for the Snow Princess vote, and Connor had confirmed that the online system wasn't hackable, unless she'd figured out a way to do it. But Tessa was talking again. I thought that would be the end of it, but no. Almost every single club was the same thing. People passed over in favor of other kids who didn't deserve it. Cheaters, liars, the popular kids. So you decided to take matters into your own hands? She crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow at me. As opposed to what you do? The school paper? Oh, don't play games with me, DJ. I know what you do. What you all do. Hatching plots, righting wrongs. The way she said it made me feel icky. It wasn't that she was being judgmental. It was that she wasn't. I caught wind of what you guys were doing when you interrupted one of my operations. The foiled rocket boosting. I should thank you for that, she said. My info was bad. It would have been a big mistake. All of what you're doing is a big mistake, I countered. We've been researching you, too, you know. So you've seen all the people I've helped. And hurt. Yeah, maybe some of them had it coming, but most of them were innocent kids. Just because someone wins doesn't mean they didn't deserve it. I mean, you won the election. I voted for you. Is that why you hide your identity, even inside your little club? Because you're the queen of the number 2 and you're literally the school president? Her eyes went dark. I'll never be number 1. Not really. She was thinking about Regina again. I could tell. But then her eyes lightened. But I know you understand, considering what it is you do. I shook my head. We don't do the same thing. Don't we? You work with criminals. She laughed. And Mariposa's what? A space cadet? It's all the same to you, I guess. Power is power, she said. I don't like everyone I have to work with, but if I can control them, I can use their power for good. Right, because rigging an election is so good. Does Paige even know you're doing that? No, said Tessa, and she's not going to find out. The winter formal vote is the biggest popularity contest of them all. Someone like Paige could never win, even though she deserves it 1,000,000 times more than Sienna. You're doing it because she's your friend. Do you not hear what you're saying? You're giving her special treatment because you're her friend. How is that different than any of the people you busted? I know she deserves it most because she's my friend. It's not going to work, I said. Whatever you think you're going to do to rig it, if Connor can't do it, no one can. You'll get caught. Oh, I know, she said. I talked to your friend. Malik? Nice kid. Goes to school with my sister. He came over once to work on a school project with her, and we had an interesting conversation. I knew it. Wrestling team. Give me a break. After the snowstorm knocked out the power and lost the nominations, I wanted to know if I could do that again on purpose, she continued. Lose some of the votes for Paige's opponent. Malik said the same thing you did. I even had him double check for me when he was here for wrestling practice. The system is airtight. No way to hack it without the school being alerted. Which is why it's not going to be rigged for Paige. It'll be rigged for Sienna. And when it gets found out, they'll think she cheated for herself. She'll be disqualified. My eyes snapped up to meet hers. Why are you telling me this? You know I'm going to stop you. Oh, you can't stop me, she said. First of all, you don't have any proof. And second of all, it's already done. There was already an attempt to flood the system with bogus votes for Sienna an hour ago. They just hadn't discovered it yet. But they will as soon as they check their email. I knew you'd get involved one way or another, DJ. That's why I needed a plan B and C. Keeping you busy is not an easy job. but once you locked onto Paige as your prime suspect, it took a lot of the heat off me. So thanks for that. I'd given speeches like this. I'd been on the other side of this exchange so many times, lining up my verbal shouts one after the other to back my opponent into a corner. But this time I didn't feel like a hawk. I didn't even feel like a hawk having a bad day. I fully felt like prey, like a mouse. I tried to keep the shake out of my voice, but if she was as hawk-eyed as me, I was sure she could tell it was a front. This still doesn't explain why you're telling me this, I said. Isn't it obvious, she said. Her face went soft and welcoming. She didn't look like she wanted to take me down. She looked like genuine, friendly, kind Tessa again. I told you, I respect what you do. I want you to work with me. Join the BPS or stay independent and we can be allies. We want the same things. We could do so much together, DJ. I felt a wave of deja vu wash over me. This was Lucky all over again. Except Lucky knew what he was about. Tessa thought she was the good guy here. She thought we were the same. Do I have a choice? I asked. She looked hurt. I'm not going to force you, DJ. I don't force anyone to join the BPS. It's by invitation. I'm sure you know that. So if I say no, you're just going to let me walk away with all this information? I won't force you to join, she repeated, not actually answering my question. But you don't have clean hands. I know why you're here. At the Fitz, Malik and I talked about more than just the election. We also talked about you. I know things about you. I have evidence. Things people here don't know about you. Things you don't want them to know. And I know who's in your crew here. Monty, Connor, Audrey. I kept still and emotionless, but she knew how to hit where it hurt. All the work I'd put into keeping everyone safe and undercover, and Tessa was rubbing it in my face. Not that I want anything to happen to them, she said. The opposite, really. Brent, from the choir? Do you know how badly he wanted a solo in the winter concert? Audrey's gotten them every year since we were little. He would have been an easy recruit, but I kept him out as a favor to you, so she wouldn't get caught up in any of this. Do you know what I could have done if I actually wanted to hurt you? I didn't care that Santiago could definitely beat the snot out of me. I took a step forward to get right in Tessa's face. Is that a threat? Does it sound like a threat? She answered coolly. We stood there, silently staring each other down for what felt like hours, but it was probably only seconds. I didn't want to give in, but I didn't have any leverage on her. Even if I felt confident enough to bluff her, I didn't know what that bluff would be. And she had so much dirt on me, on all of us. Would it be so bad to give in? Did we have a choice? And then the auditorium door swung open. Oh, there you are, DJ. Audrey. It was Audrey. Santiago was too busy keeping me here to also keep others out. My brain ran through all the things I could say to try and signal something was wrong, but Tessa caught my eye and shook her head a fraction of a degree. Don't, she mouthed, the threat clear without her having to say anything else. She tossed a glance at Santiago, who quickly dropped his bodyguard stance. Then she spun to meet Audrey, relaxed as if she hadn't just been threatening me. Someone said they saw you come this way, Audrey said, as she made her way to the foot of the stage. We ran out of cups, Tessa said. DJ said he knew where we could find some. Do you need help? Audrey asked, looking directly at me. Yes. No, I said, trying to stay as casual as Tessa. We're all good here. You should go back to the carnival. You sure? I don't mind. I hesitated, took a quick glance at Tessa, then nodded. Yeah, don't worry. I don't need you. Okay, she said cheerfully. Find me after. We need to talk about newspaper stuff. Bye, Tessa. Bye, Santiago. See ya, Audrey, she said, as my last hope retreated out the room. Tessa turned her attention back to me. Good. I knew you'd do the right thing. Lying to my friend? Keeping her out of it, Tessa countered. I know you do it. I know there's a reason that, as far as anyone in the know knows, DJ works with Monty and Connor. Not everyone knows about her. You protect her. She doesn't need protecting. She smiled at me indulgently, like I was a kid saying I didn't take any cake while my face was smeared with chocolate. Come on, DJ. You don't believe that. I closed my eyes. I thought about Audrey saving my and Connor's butts behind the Starcade the first time we were together as a group by bursting into fake tears. I thought about her annoyance in the hallway when she tried to give me a lollipop. I thought about our lunch date, whatever that had been. My eyes snapped open. I wasn't sure how I was going to deal with Tessa, but I was sure about Audrey. Yes, I do, I said, voice perfectly even for the first time since this conversation started. She can stand on her own, and so can Paige. Do you think she'd be happy to know what you're doing on her behalf? There was a twitch in her expression again, but it wasn't the same as before. That had been annoyance. Anger, triggered by her sister. What was this? She'd understand. A lie. Then why don't you tell her? Because she doesn't need to know. Another lie. And that twitch again. A twinge of guilt? You wouldn't say that if you didn't think you were doing something wrong. You don't know what I'd say. Don't I? Yeah, definitely guilt. Maybe I didn't have anything concrete to use as leverage, but that didn't mean I couldn't hit her where it hurt. I didn't move from where I was standing, but I somehow felt less cornered. You're the one who keeps saying we're the same. Maybe I keep Audrey out of the thick of things sometimes, and that's wrong, but I always tell her what we're doing. Bam. A hit. I could see it in her eyes. I don't lie to my team. Hit. I don't lie to my friends. Hit. If you think you're doing right, you should have no problem telling Paige. Telling me what? Said a voice from behind the curtains. Any composure Tessa had retained melted away as she jumped high enough to get on the spot drafted to the basketball team. The curtains behind us parted, revealing Mariposa, Monty, Connor, Audrey, and a very disoriented-looking Paige. Tessa looked shocked, truly shocked for the first time since she started talking. It wasn't just flashes. She was fully knocked out of boss mode. The hawk look was gone from her eyes. She looked more like a deer in headlights. Paige, she said, her voice jumping half an octave. What are you doing here? She glanced at me and I shrugged. She had my phone. I couldn't text anyone. And she'd heard my conversation with Audrey. I hadn't asked for help. They said you had something to say to me, Paige said, looking at Audrey and Mariposa, and then back at me. They brought me here. Were you just talking about me? What? Of course not. Oh, come on, Connor said. Don't give us that. We totally heard you guys say her name. Oh, well, yeah, 'cause we were talking about winter formal stuff, right, DJ? She turned to me and gave me a look with a glint that said, remember what I know. I pulled a pen out of my pocket. Do you know what this is? I asked. Spy pen from Connor's kit. You said you and Paige used to play around with invisible ink pens, so maybe you've heard of these too? It has a recorder. I've been recording this whole time. Tessa might have a good front, but you're only as good as your team. And in the moment, the other member of her team, Santiago, he said, Wait, what? You were recording? Then he covered his mouth with his hands. She shot him a withering look, then turned back to Paige, who looked even more confused. What's going on, Tess? You better tell her, I said, thumb hovering over the pen. Tell her or I will. Or actually, I'll just press this button and she'll hear it herself. Hear what? Tessa threw her hands up. Paige, it's not what it's going to sound like. I promise I did it for you, for everyone. Did what? Rigged the Snow Princess vote for starters, said Audrey. I turned to Paige. She said you couldn't have won without her. And I guess that means she did all the other BPS stuff too, said Monty, stealing Jade's tuba before her band test. Leaving Hillary that nasty note before her solo, Audrey added. Let's not forget freaking out Dominic before the spelling bee and losing me 1,000 tickets, said Connor. Paige looked more and more concerned as we spoke. You did all that? She said. No, Paige, of course not. I twitched my thumb over the top of the pen and she flinched. Okay, I might have organized some stuff, but I didn't do it personally. It was all the BPS. What's the BPS? Paige, we can just get out of here. We don't have to listen to this. What's the BPS? She demanded again. It was the loudest I've ever heard Paige speak. It doesn't matter. And that was the quietest I'd ever heard Tessa speak. It does. Why would you do all that? The spelling bee and the dance? Why? Because you weren't going to win if I didn't, Paige, and you deserved to win. Not Sienna. It's not fair. When she'd been talking to me before, she sounded like a crusader, like a freedom fighter, like a rebel with a cause. But now, she sounded like a kid who doesn't get the toy they wanted for Christmas. And I think that's what Paige heard too, because she took a step, crossing downstage towards Tessa as she spoke, voice getting louder with each step. Do you think I care about winning, Tessa? I've never cared about any of that. It's always you. You cared about being president. I just ran with you because you wanted to. You're the one who wanted to do this whole carnival. You're the one who nominated me. I didn't even want to do it. You said it would be fun. It will be, Tessa said, her voice strained. She rushed to close the last few feet between them and grabbed Paige's hands. It'll be fun when you win and they crown you, and everyone stops calling you Tractor Tran and I don't care, Paige yelled, snatching away her hands. I don't care what people call me. Why do you? Because we're friends. Paige looked down. Then she looked up at Tessa, eyes cold and hard. Not anymore. And she took off backstage. Paige, Tessa said, running after her. I shot a glance at Monty, who blocked her path. Audrey, I said. On it. She ducked under Monty's arm and went after Paige. I looked over at Tessa, who didn't even look like a deer anymore. She looked like a kid whose best friend had just said she wanted nothing to do with her. No fight, no flight, nothing. It almost felt bad hitting her any harder, but we had to end this permanently. Audrey will talk to her, I said. I don't know what she's going to say exactly, but like I said before, I trust her. Tessa looked away from me, but she couldn't hide the expression on her face now. Shame. Oh, and just so you know, this isn't a recording pen. I clicked the top a few times. Just a ballpoint. But you just confessed to everything again, so I'm hoping... I glanced over at Connor, who held up his phone with a grin. Mariposa's still rigged up for sound. I got it all. He pressed a button, and Tessa's voice echoed in the empty auditorium. Because you weren't going to win if I didn't, Paige. Perfect. At this point, Santiago bolted for the front door. Monty, I said, and he took off after him. I didn't bother looking up to see if he caught him. It was Monty. Instead, I squared up against Tessa and held out a hand. She looked confused for a second before a dim recognition lit in her eyes, and she handed my phone back to me. I slid it into my back pocket and caught her eyes so she couldn't look away. All right, Tessa, let's talk.